Thanks so much for joining us today, Chef.
It's a pleasure to be here with you.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Well, I'd love if you could just get into your background a little bit for those who don't know you.
My background is a bit different from a lot of other chefs. I've no training whatsoever when it comes to this industry. Everything I've learned from my father, who was an executive chef, other chefs that I work with. I have a brother that's an executive chef and two uncles that are executive chefs. So I worked my way up from washing dishes, like some, but I had no formal training whatsoever. And here I am.
How do you find that impacts either your career or the way that you interact with your team or other chefs?
I think it humbles me some. I don't have as big as ego as most chefs have. So I find myself very humble because I always take a step back instead of always just like, oh, I know this, I know that. I'm like, no, you don't always know everything.
You mentioned you have a lot of family who are in culinary and that's sort of how you got into it. What type of cooking did you grow up with or what type of cooking did your dad do?
I'm from the Bahamas, so it's traditional food, Bahamian food. He did a lot of that. My dad, he went to the Smithsonian as well, so he did do a lot of international cooking as well, but mainly Bahamian food, and that's my background,
So that sort of takes us into your club that you're at now. Can you tell us a little bit about it and what makes it so different from a lot of other clubs?
So with my club, which is Cay Yacht Club, we are a distinguished club and we are a platinum yacht club. We're located about 50 miles off Miami on a key in the Bahamas. So that is different in itself. We don't have the luxury of running out to the store if we run out of something because you're on a deserted island basically with just the amenities of the club, We have to plan. Planning is key to make sure that we run a smooth ship. That's what it is.
I'm sure that's something that chefs who don't have that experience take for granted. Could you go into a little bit more about the logistics of what that's like for you?
Normally, when we have to place orders for food and stuff like that, typically a chef on mainland, you can just call up and be like, hey, can I have this delivered today or tomorrow? No. We would have to say, okay, the boat will be taking on freight on, say, Tuesday. So we have to have these meats inspected before they're sent from the US because we buy a lot of our stuff from the US. Locally, it's kind of hard to buy groceries within the Bahamas because we still have to have a shipping system and getting things on the local boats, sometimes they're not transported correctly. And so it's easier to get it from the US because we're so close to Florida. So with that, we have to make sure that we put these orders in ahead of time to make sure that it's delivered in time. Sometimes we may experience like bad weather. So you have to make sure that you have sufficient to last for just in case the boat isn't in for another 2 weeks, Or it's going to be very costly for you to have to fly stuff in, even though we have a private runway. That's going to cost a lot. So you have to plan. That goes into your budget. And you don't want to get into that. So yeah, you have to plan accordingly.
It's a whole other added challenge for you. It sounds
yes,
like,
it is. Yeah, yes, it is. And we don't just have membership to feed, even though our membership is a little under 300. But we do have staff to feed as well. And we have construction always going on the island. And so we have about 200 staff on island to feed daily for lunch and dinner. So yeah, that in itself is a challenge.
What does employee meal look like for you?
Employee meal, I guess for most of us in this industry, it's very difficult because sometimes they're more difficult for us, at least at my club. They're more difficult than the members, It's hard to please everyone because we have so many different employees from different nationalities. So it's very hard that a lot of locals, they want to eat local dishes. And the foreigners, they want to eat what they're used to eating, you know? So on a local menu day, the foreigners are like, oh, I don't want that. On a foreign menu day, the locals are like, oh, I don't want that. So finding the balance has been the struggle, and we're still, working towards getting it right. Yeah.
And what are your dining operations like?
Okay, so we have one kitchen that services 4 dining areas and the staff. One kitchen that cooks all of this food. And so for service, it's a bit different at our place as well, because the wait staff has to transport the food from one area to all these different dining areas, and not all are covered. So there are steep inclines. So we have the wait staff that are toting all this food outside the door. It's storming outside, but people are waiting on their food. So we're like, okay, I'm gonna need you to walk with an umbrella to help them get it over there. That's what it is sometimes.
What brought you there initially, and what makes you stay for this long?
So at Cay Yacht, we are a family. That's what we always say, and we are truly a family. So when I went there first, I went to visit a family member that was working there. Just went there for a visit. At the time I had my own operation, and I was just looking to get away, And I met with the chef then, because I'm a chef, And so he said, maybe one time you can come out, because we have functions, and we need extra hands. And he's like, okay, maybe one time you can come out and lend us a hand. I said, I'll think about it, And so one day I got a call from the relative that I went to visit. She was like, hey, the chef is asking if you can come out and, lend a hand. And I said, okay. I went there, I worked for one function. I fell in love. And the rest, as they say, is history.
How would you say your culinary program at the club has evolved since you arrived almost 10 years ago now?
Our culinary program has changed a lot, because with me being there and not always being the chef, like I said, I started out as the staff cook. I went through multiple chefs during that time. I think I went through probably about 5 chefs before I became the executive chef. My sous chef now used to be my boss, and now I'm his boss. So I've seen the do's and the don'ts, what works well, what doesn't work well, what our staff needs are, because I was a part of that, So it's been an advantage being in the background and now at the forefront.
And when were you brought on as executive chef?
I was brought on as the executive chef 2 years ago. Yes.
What was that transition like for you?
No, actually it was 3 years ago. Sorry. That transition hasn't been easy, because like I said previously, my sous chef was my boss, and now I'm his boss. So that transition was a bit rocky because of age difference, and gender, because that's always a little touchy subject in this industry. But now it's smooth, It's just we have a respect and a love for our craft. So it's been a little rocky, but we were able to smooth it out.
Sounds like there's a story there, but I don't know if it's one that you want to tell.
I think everybody has a little bit of that story if you've been in this industry long enough, especially women in this field. Yeah. But that's another day.
Do you ever find that you're underestimated?
Oh, yes. All the time. I feel a lot of people, they take women in this industry for granted, because it's funny, because most of us, when we think of cooking, the best cooks that we know are our moms. Most of us have this story. But yet, in this industry, it's like the men are, oh yeah, we're the best, but you learned from someone even better. So I think women in this field are really looked as the underdog. And I get it twice. I always feel this way because it's not just me being a woman, it's me being a Black woman. So it's that. And that's a whole nother topic too. But yeah.
What advice do you give your staff, potentially your female staff, your women of color staff, who look to you for guidance on these types of issues that you're talking about?
For me, when I hire a female, because another backstory is, when I came into the club, I was the only female employed in the club. It was a man's world. And we had about probably 7 employees in total, the only female. Over the years, there was another female that was hired along with me as I progressed in the kitchen. And she left because she was older. She left out of the field. And then when I transitioned into management, into becoming the junior sous, and then to the executive sous, I started to hire more females because I saw that was lacking in the kitchen. So as I would hire females, I will always let them know, women are looked at in this industry as you get to the top by playing around with the boys, I said, you don't ever want that reputation in this field. So be professional at all times. All times. Don't make it seem like you took the back road to get here. You got here because you worked really hard. Really, really hard. Don't let people think that it's from some other way. That's one of the advice I give all my female staff that I hire.
What's next for you? What's next for your club? Anything exciting coming up this year?
Within my club, we have a lot of new projects coming on. We're doing renovations to our clubhouse. We just finished renovating our golf course. And so now it's just upgrading our facilities. We have a lot of upgrades that we have coming up next for our club. We're looking to start new programs when it comes to catering, doing more banquets, events and stuff like that within the club. These are some of the things that we're looking to add on right now. The timeline would be within the next year to 2 years, because there are major upgrades to be done, especially with the new clubhouse, because with the logistics of construction and having to bring in materials because of the island, these things take a bit longer because we have to, have things moved on to the island to have stuff done.
Whole other added element too for you. When's the last time you did a major renovation or construction at the club?
Kitchen was the last renovation that we did that was major. That happened 4 years ago, and we redid the entire kitchen, and it hadn't been remodeled for approximately 15 years. So yeah, that was a big upgrade, a big upgrade.